There is a sugar your body cannot use for energy the same way glucose can, and instead of burning it, it attaches to your proteins and fats in a process that literally caramelizes your blood vessels from the inside. It is in nearly every fruit juice, sports drink, and natural sweetener on the market. And there is a good chance you are consuming it several times a day while believing you are making a healthy choice. The information in this video is educational and based on the 2026 Dietary Guidelines for Americans and published biochemical research. It does not constitute dietary prescription or medical advice. People with diabetes, fatty liver disease, or metabolic conditions should discuss dietary sugar intake with their healthcare provider before making changes. Do you start your day with fruit juice or a smoothie, thinking it is a healthy choice? Tell us in the comments, and share this video with someone who has been drinking juice every morning as part of a health routine. Fructose has been marketed as the healthier sugar for decades. It has a lower glycemic index than glucose, meaning it does not spike blood sugar in the same way. It was recommended to diabetics. It was celebrated as the natural sugar in fruit. Health food products advertised it as a selling point. The smoothie industry built an entire commercial category on the idea that liquid fruit sugar is a nutritious start to the day. What this narrative obscured, and what the biochemical evidence has been documenting for years, is that fructose and glucose are processed by the body through completely different pathways, and the fructose pathway carries risks that are entirely independent of blood sugar levels. Unlike glucose, which can be metabolized by virtually every cell in the body, fructose is processed almost exclusively in the liver. When it arrives there in small amounts, as it does when you eat a piece of whole fruit, the liver handles it without difficulty. But when it arrives in large amounts, as happens when you drink a glass of orange juice, consume a sports drink, use agave nectar, or eat any product sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, the liver becomes overwhelmed and converts excess fructose directly into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. This is one of the primary drivers of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which affects an estimated 25% of adults over 60 worldwide. The liver slowly fills with fat, impairing its ability to regulate glucose, process cholesterol, and perform the hundreds of metabolic functions it is responsible for. Most people with early or moderate fatty liver have no symptoms. The condition is diagnosed incidentally, if at all, and by then years of progressive damage have already occurred. But the more insidious effect of fructose is not what it does to the liver. It is what it does to proteins and tissues throughout the body. Fructose glycates proteins at a rate approximately 10 times faster than glucose. Glycation is a chemical reaction in which a sugar molecule attaches to a protein or fat and alters its structure and function. When this happens in the bloodstream and arterial walls, the glycated proteins form what biochemists call advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds are exactly what the name implies: accelerated aging products. They stiffen collagen, damage the delicate endothelial cells that line blood vessels, increase arterial wall rigidity, and initiate the inflammatory cascade that drives atherosclerosis. The blood vessel changes associated with cardiovascular aging, the loss of arterial elasticity that raises blood pressure and increases the risk of heart attack and stroke, are significantly driven by age accumulation. Fructose accelerates this process at a rate that glucose, for all its other metabolic risks, does not match. In the brain, age accumulation in neurons and neural tissue is one of the mechanisms currently being investigated in connection with cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. The buildup of glycated amyloid proteins, which are stickier and harder to clear than non-glycated forms, is one pathway by which dietary fructose load may contribute to the progression of neurodegenerative disease over decades. This does not mean that eating a banana causes dementia. It means that a lifetime of high fructose consumption, primarily through liquid sugar sources, contributes to a cumulative glycation burden that the brain, like the arteries, bears the cost of. Robert was 68 years old. He had been disciplined about his health for most of his adult life. He did not eat red meat. He exercised 3 times a week. He had switched from soda to fruit juice decades ago, and he used agave nectar in his morning tea because he had been told it was a low glycemic alternative to sugar. At his routine physical, his liver enzymes were elevated. An ultrasound showed early non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. His blood pressure, despite medication, was difficult to control. His cardiologist mentioned arterial stiffness. Nobody connected any of this to his juice and agave routine until a nutritionist, reviewing his full dietary history, identified his fructose load as substantial and almost entirely from sources he considered healthy. Within 6 months of eliminating juice-switching agave for small amounts of real maple syrup or eating the whole fruit instead of drinking it and reducing his overall sweet intake, his liver enzymes had normalized and his blood pressure medication was reduced. The practical consequence for adults over 60 is significant and specific. The daily glass of orange juice that seems like a vitamin C supplement. The natural honey in morning tea. The banana smoothie. The agave-sweetened granola. The fruit juice mixed with sparkling water as an alternative to soda. Each of these delivers a fructose load that, over years and decades, contributes measurably to vascular aging, liver stress, and the age accumulation that drives brain and tissue degeneration. The 2026 dietary guidelines take a markedly more cautious position on added sugars and fruit juice than any previous version, and the fructose mechanism is the scientific foundation of that caution. This does not mean eliminating fruit. It means understanding the distinction between eating fruit and drinking it. Whole fruit delivers fructose inside a matrix of fiber, water, polyphenols, and micronutrients that profoundly changes how it is absorbed. The fiber slows gastric emptying and intestinal absorption, reducing the rate at which fructose arrives at the liver, and allowing the liver to process it without triggering de novo lipogenesis. The polyphenols in whole fruit independently reduce glycation rates and provide antioxidant protection against age formation. When you remove the fiber by juicing or blending, you remove the biological safeguards that make fruit fructose safe at the quantities in which fruit is typically consumed. A glass of orange juice contains the fructose from 4 to 6 oranges with none of the fiber. Nobody eats 6 oranges in a sitting. The concentration and speed of delivery are different, and that difference is metabolically consequential. The best fruits for adults over 60 under the 2026 framework are those with the lowest fructose content and highest antioxidant and polyphenol density. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries meet both criteria. They are low in fructose, high in anthocyanins that independently protect arterial walls and support brain health, and safe to eat daily in reasonable portions. A handful of berries with yogurt is a fundamentally different metabolic event than a glass of apple juice. Both contain sugar. The similarity ends there. We're going to break down some simple, practical, and totally doable ways to reduce your fructose burden without feeling deprived or turning your kitchen upside down. So, where do we start? The single biggest impact you can make is by tackling sugary drinks. This is the low-hanging fruit, pun intended. Sodas, sweetened teas, sports drinks, and even many fruit juices are packed with fructose. A single can of soda can contain around 40 grams of sugar, much of it fructose. Think about it. You would never sit down and eat 10 teaspoons of sugar, but it's incredibly easy to drink them. The simple swap? Water! I know. It sounds boring. But you can make water exciting. Infuse it with lemon, cucumber, mint, or berries. This adds flavor without the sugar load. Sparkling water is another fantastic alternative if you miss the fizz of soda. Unsweetened herbal teas, both hot and cold, are also great options. Making this one change can dramatically slash your daily fructose intake without you even noticing a huge dietary shift. Next up, let's talk about sauces, dressings, and condiments. These are the sneaky sources of sugar you might not even think about. Ketchup, barbecue sauce, teriyaki sauce, and many salad dressings are often loaded with added sugars, including high-fructose corn syrup. You might be having a healthy salad, but then you drown it in a dressing that's secretly a sugar bomb. The solution here is to become a label detective. Before you put something in your cart, flip it over and check the ingredients list and the sugar content. Look for words like high-fructose corn syrup, sucrose, or agave nectar. You'll be amazed at how much sugar is hiding in plain sight. Better yet, try making your own. A simple vinaigrette with olive oil, vinegar, and some herbs is incredibly easy and gives you complete control. For ketchup, look for no sugar-added versions. Small changes in your condiment choices add up to a big reduction in fructose. Now, let's address the big question. What about fruit? Fruit is a whole food, packed with fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. The fiber in fruit is a game changer. It slows down the absorption of sugar, so your body isn't hit with a massive fructose spike like it is with a soda. So, please do not be afraid of fruit. However, we can still be strategic. If you're looking to reduce your overall fructose load, you might want to be mindful of the types and quantities of fruit you eat. Berries like strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries are fantastic choices because they are relatively low in sugar and high in fiber. Melons and citrus fruits are also great options. Fruits like grapes, mangoes, and dried fruits like raisins and dates are much higher in sugar. I'm not saying you should never eat them, but maybe think of them as a treat rather than a daily staple. The key is moderation and variety. A handful of berries is a better everyday choice than a large bunch of grapes. Another key strategy is to always choose whole fruit over fruit juice. When you juice a fruit, you strip away almost all of the beneficial fiber. What you're left with is basically sugar water. Think about how many oranges it takes to make a glass of orange juice. Maybe 3 or 4. You'd probably feel full after eating one whole orange, but you can drink the juice from 4 oranges in a minute. That's a concentrated dose of fructose hitting your liver all at once without the fiber to slow it down. So, eat your fruit, don't drink it. The same goes for smoothies. While they can be better than juice because they can retain the fiber if you blend the whole fruit, be mindful of what you're adding. A smoothie made with just fruit and fruit juice can still be a sugar bomb. Try to balance it out with greens like spinach, a source of protein like Greek yogurt or protein powder, and healthy fats like avocado or chia seeds. This creates a more balanced meal that won't spike your blood sugar. Let's move on to breakfast cereals and snack bars. These are often marketed as healthy, but many are just desserts in disguise. That healthy granola or whole grain cereal could be coated in sugar. Again, the label is your best friend. Look for cereals with less than 5 grams of sugar per serving and a good amount of fiber. Or, even better, switch to options like oatmeal, where you control the toppings. You can add some berries and a sprinkle of cinnamon for flavor instead of a spoonful of brown sugar. Snack bars are another tricky area. Look for bars made with whole food ingredients, minimal added sugars, and a good amount of protein and fiber to keep you full. Or make your own. A handful of nuts and a piece of low-sugar fruit is a perfect, simple snack. Now, let's talk about sweeteners. You might be tempted to swap sugar for natural sweeteners like honey, agave nectar, or maple syrup. While these might sound healthier, they are still very high in fructose. In fact, agave nectar can have an even higher fructose concentration than high fructose corn syrup. So, while they might have some trace minerals, your liver processes them in much the same way as regular sugar. The goal is to reduce your overall sugar intake, not just swap one type for another. Over time, as you reduce the sugar in your diet, your palate will actually adjust. Things you used to find normal will start to taste overly sweet, and you'll begin to appreciate the natural sweetness in foods like carrots or sweet potatoes. Let's tie this all together with a practical mindset. This is not about perfection. It's about progress. Don't try to change everything overnight. Start with one thing. For the first week, just focus on swapping out your sugary drinks for water. Once that becomes a habit, move on to checking the labels on your sauces and dressings. Small, consistent changes are far more sustainable than a drastic, short-lived diet. Remember the 80-20 rule. If you're making smart choices 80% of the time, don't stress about the occasional treat. Enjoy that piece of birthday cake or that special dessert. A healthy lifestyle is about balance, not deprivation. The goal is to lower your chronic daily fructose burden from processed foods, not to live in fear of a piece of fruit. So, to recap our simple steps: 1. Ditch the sugary drinks. 2. Become a label reader and choose low-sugar condiments. 3. Prioritize whole, high-fiber, low-sugar fruits like berries. 4. Eat your fruit. Don't drink it. 5. Be wary of healthy cereals and snack bars. And 6. Understand that all added sweeteners contribute to your fructose load. By implementing these strategies gradually, you can significantly reduce your fructose burden, support your liver health, and feel more energetic without feeling like you're on a restrictive diet. It's all about making smarter, more informed choices, one step at a time. It really is possible to take control of your sugar intake without a major diet disruption. Let me know in the comments which tip you're going to try first. I'd love to hear about your journey. The uric acid connection closes a loop in the fructose story that many nutritional discussions leave open. When the liver metabolizes fructose through its specific pathway, one of the byproducts is uric acid. High fructose consumption consistently raises serum uric acid levels, and elevated uric acid is independently associated with hypertension through a direct mechanism. Uric acid inhibits endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme responsible for producing nitric oxide, the molecule that relaxes blood vessel walls. Reduced nitric oxide availability causes blood vessels to remain chronically constricted, raising blood pressure through a mechanism that has nothing to do with sodium intake. This helps explain the clinical observation that some people with hypertension do not respond adequately to sodium restriction, but do respond to fructose reduction. It also explains why gout, which is caused by uric acid crystal deposition in joints, tracks so closely with the rise in fructose consumption over the past 50 years. Adults over 60 with either gout or treatment-resistant hypertension, or both, have a particularly strong mechanistic reason to reduce fructose intake aggressively. The insulin resistance story adds another layer. Fructose in the liver generates fat through de novo lipogenesis as described, and that fat accumulation progressively impairs the liver's insulin sensitivity. A liver loaded with fat responds poorly to insulin signals, triggering compensatory hyperinsulinemia as the pancreas produces more insulin trying to get the liver to respond. This elevated baseline insulin then drives fat storage throughout the body and reduces the sensitivity of muscle tissue to insulin, impairing its ability to clear glucose from the blood after meals. The metabolic syndrome cluster, abdominal fat, elevated triglycerides, reduced HDL, elevated blood pressure, and impaired fasting glucose, maps almost perfectly onto the downstream consequences of chronic high fructose liver loading. Many adults over 60 who have been told they are pre-diabetic or have metabolic syndrome are, in part, experiencing the cumulative consequences of 40 years of fructose consumption from sources they were told were healthy. The good news embedded in all of this is that the liver's response to fructose restriction is relatively rapid. Unlike some forms of dietary damage that require years to reverse, fatty liver can show measurable improvement in hepatic fat content within 8 to 12 weeks of meaningful fructose reduction. Liver enzyme normalization follows over a similar time frame. Blood pressure improvements, mediated through the uric acid and nitric oxide pathway, can begin appearing within 4 to 6 weeks of eliminating high fructose liquid sources. These are not trivial timelines. They are faster than most pharmaceutical interventions for the same conditions, and they occur without side effects, without cost, and without the need for any specialist consultation. The intervention is simply stopping the source of the injury. For adults over 60 specifically, the urgency of addressing this is proportional to the cumulative duration of exposure. Someone who is 65 and has been drinking juice daily for 40 years has been delivering a sustained fructose load to a liver and vascular system that are simultaneously experiencing age-related declines in repair capacity. The window for meaningful reversal is real, but it closes progressively with age. Starting this week produces different outcomes than starting in 5 years. The 2026 guidelines have made the official case that was needed to shift public understanding. The practical steps are available to anyone with access to a grocery store. Put the juice down, pick up the fruit. Your liver has been waiting for the break. The comparison between whole fruit and dried fruit is one that many older adults get wrong in exactly the same direction as the juice problem. Raisins, dates, dried cranberries, dried apricots, and similar products concentrate the fructose of the original fruit into a much smaller volume by removing the water. A small handful of raisins contains the fructose of a large bunch of grapes delivered without the fiber-to-sugar buffering ratio of fresh grapes, because drying changes the physical structure of the fiber and reduces its ability to slow sugar absorption. Dried fruit as an occasional ingredient in cooking or as a small garnish is metabolically reasonable. Dried fruit consumed as a daily snack in meaningful quantities or added liberally to granola, yogurt, and oatmeal as commonly recommended represents a fructose delivery that accumulates into the same territory as moderate juice consumption. The 2026 guidelines caution about concentrated sugar sources applies here. Eat fresh fruit. Use dried fruit sparingly. The beverage audit is the most efficient single intervention for adults over 60 who want to reduce their fructose load immediately. Go through every liquid you consume in a typical day and identify any that contain juice, HFCS, agave, fruit concentrate, honey in large amounts, or commercial sweeteners. Replace juice with the whole fruit. Replace sweetened waters and sports drinks with plain water or mineral water with a squeeze of citrus. If you use a sweetener in hot drinks, reduce the quantity gradually over 2 weeks rather than eliminating it overnight. This approach addresses the largest fructose sources first and produces the fastest metabolic response. The food label audit is the second intervention. Scan the ingredient lists of packaged foods in your pantry for the following terms, all of which indicate meaningful fructose content: high fructose corn syrup, fructose, fruit juice concentrate, apple juice, grape juice, date syrup, agave, agave nectar. Any product with these as primary or secondary ingredients delivers a fructose load that accumulates toward the liver and vascular damage described in this video. Replacing these products with versions that use no sweetener, or sweetened with small amounts of sucrose or glucose-based syrups, reduces the fructose-specific risk without requiring any change in overall caloric or carbohydrate intake. Your grocery store choices, made once a week, determine the metabolic environment your liver, arteries, brain, and kidneys operate in every hour of every day. The 2026 guidelines have corrected the 40-year error that told you juice was health food. The correction is yours to apply. You reached the end. Thank you. Leave a like and a comment. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are making well-intentioned dietary choices that are working against them without knowing it. If you would like to support this work directly, the Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description. If this video changed how you think about fruit juice and natural sweeteners, write in the comments, "I choose real food over fake health." And hit the like button so this content reaches the people who need it. See you in the next video.